What is going on, guys? This is the OG Hoenn Champ here, and today I am bringing you a two-part video. Actually, since I'm gonna be a little lazy right now, I am in this new league called the GSL. We're just gonna go with the fact that it's gonna be Greatest Showdown League, because I have no idea what the actual acronym stands for. But in any case, this is gonna be two parts. It's gonna be my draft analysis for my own team, and also a team builder for my week 1 team. Now, if you guys actually want, I will post a link to the power rankings down below. So you might have already seen a sneak peek of my team and all the other teams, but I'm still just going to go through it. So draft analysis is going to be first. Look down in the description if you want to just skip that and go right to the team builder. I'll post what time the team builder actually starts, or at least the analysis of my first opponent's team. So, without further ado, let's get right into my team, and I will explain why I chose it and what I think. So, first choice. Oh, again, I should probably explain, if you haven't seen the power ranking, this was an open league. So what that means is that as long as the Pokemon's not banned, you can draft it. Simple as that. I mean, there are no point values, no tiers, no anything. It's just if the Pokemon is available and not banned, aka not in Ubers and a couple other Pokemon, you can draft it. So that's what we were working on the assumption of. So you might see a lot of big threats on everyone's team, really, and that's the reasoning for it. So without further ado, now let's actually get started into the team builder. So first, I started off with Thundurus T, Thundurus Therian, and the reason I actually did this is because I've been wanting to use Thundurus on a team for a long time, but I never really found a way to make it fit. So this time I decided I would almost build a team around it. And you'll find that a lot with my first picks. I'm usually choosing something and then trying to build something around it a little bit. So there's that. And Thundurus is a fantastic Pokemon. With Volt Absorb as its ability, it also gets a ton of coverage. Like, besides just Thunderbolt and Volt Switch, you get Sludge Bomb. I think it gets Knockoff if you want a little bit of versatility. It gets Focus Blast, obviously the hidden powers. I think it gets Flash Cannon as well. So there are a ton of different ways you can run this Thundurus, but But the reason that it's so valuable to me is it just breaks that 100 speed tier. It actually gets 101 speed. Unfortunately, that means I'll probably be forced to run Timid most of the time to outspeed other threats. But let me tell you, this thing with a choice specs, it can run through teams. I mean, base 145 special attack is nothing to laugh at, even though I just did. Anyway, next was Landorus Therian. I wanted this thing because it offers me a really, really reliable Rock Setter, as well as a fantastic just overall defensive Pokemon with Intimidate and really decent HP and defensive stats as well. This thing offers me a really great chance to, first of all, get the rocks up, and not only that, but scare out threats, because this has 145 base attack, so it's not going to be hitting like a Fortress either. I mentioned Fortress because it's on my team. It's not going to be hitting like some other weaker Rock Setters are. This thing is going to be scaring out threats. It's going to be crippling physical attackers as well. I can run this with Choice Band, Choice Scarf, Life Orb, Rocky Helmet, Leftovers. Like, there are a ton of different ways. And it also gets Rock Polish, so I can run a Sweeping Set if I really wanted to. I think it gets 91 speed, which is unfortunately a little bit slow, but all things considered, this Pokemon is really very, very good. Next up is Dragonite, and Dragonite is actually a Pokemon coming back from one of my first leagues ever, actually my first league ever, which was called the GBA Summer League. I probably won't be posting any videos on that because I don't even know if we're getting a Season 2. If we are, it's not till the summer, and I really don't feel like recording that. But Dragonite was easily the MVP of my team back then. I mean, with Dragon Dance, Extreme Speed, Iron Head, Outrage, Dragon Claw, even Dragon Rush. I mean, this thing just completely obliterated teams. And I can run this with Weakness Policy, Choice Band, Leftovers, Lumberry. There are a ton of different ways. The only way I've never seen Dragonite run is with Choice Scarf. But who knows? Maybe I'll do that at some point. It has really good attack and great coverage as well. You could even run a special set on this thing, honestly, because it gets fantastic coverage and decent special attack as well. Although, in my opinion, you'd be stupid not to run physical attack. But yeah. Anyway, at this point in the draft, I kind of noticed, like, wow, my first 3 Pokemon are all weak to Ice. And to some degree, Rock and Electric as well. But this was a problem. So that's why I decided to pick up Heatran. Really great Pokemon, especially bulky. Can also be run Scarf though, because it has really nice special attack. But this thing it's another Rock setter. Steel type is just invaluable on most teams. Gives me the first part to my Fire, Water, Grass core, and also the second part to my Steel, Dragon, Fairy core. In case that's a little bit less important, and you'll see I actually don't have a Fairy type on this team, which I don't think is the biggest of deals. But anyway, Heatran, Toxic, Magma Storm to trap if it wants to, Flash Cannon, Fire Blast, Earth Power. I just gotta watch out for ground type attacks on Heatran, and I should be pretty golden. Next up is Weavile. Weavile is a fantastic physical attacker. Way more than enough speed. I think it's 125. The only thing that really outspeeds it is anything that's 130, so like Crobat. But Ice Shard will annihilate a Crobat, so it doesn't really matter that much. But yeah, Weavile, really fantastic Pokemon. Between Knockoff, Poison Jab, Icicle Shard, Ice Shard, and Icicle Crash. That's really all the coverage you'll need. Oh, I guess it gets Brick Break too, so all depends on what you wanted to run. Next up, I picked up Ditto, and I feel like Ditto is really going to be a super important Pokemon in this league, because with so many big threats that are going to be floating around, I'm going to need something that's going to be able to check those setup sweepers. Things that would otherwise just run through my entire team. And that's what Ditto's here for. Ditto is here to pick up that Imposter and Revenge Kill, and possibly even reverse sweep an entire team. I've done it before. You all know about my Mega Charizard reverse sweep. But yeah, Ditto is just a great Pokemon in general. There's almost no reason to run it without Choice Scarf, because it'll outspeed anything except a fellow Choice Scarf user. And yeah, that's about it. Ditto's pretty simple. Next up is Fortress. This is my first spinner. Another Steel type. This one with only one weakness instead of a few like Heatran. Another spinner. Gets rocks, gets spikes. Unfortunately, I don't think it gets toxic spikes, but if it does, that's an option for me. Gyro Ball and Volt Switch are going to be my main 2 attacking moves on this thing. If I decide to run attacking moves at all. Also gets Explosion, which may or may not be helpful. I think it might also get Screens, which I might consider doing in 1 or 2 battles, because screens are really nice. Just from personal experience. But yeah, mainly gives me a Rapid Spinner and another Stealth Rocker, and an option for more hazards if I'd like. So yeah, fantastic physical wall as well. Next up is a Moongus. Another great physical wall, but can also be run special more. Gives me a Poison type, which is going to be really nice in dealing with those Fairy types, and also just absorbing toxic spikes. Not gonna lie, probably the reason I picked up a Moongus is because of Mega Venusaur. It acts like that, except it also is weak to Fire and Ice, as well as Flying and Psychic. But I think that's a fair trade, because this thing's ability is almost just as useful as Thick Fat for this Pokemon. It's Regenerator, which means that every time you switch out, you get a third of your health back, which is kind of broken, especially when it's on such a bulky Pokemon. But you know, I'm not complaining. I'm the one who got a Moongus. But yeah, it also gets Spore, which is really great. 100% chance to sleep, unless the opponent is a grass type or has insomnia or something. But also Sludge Bomb, Giga Drain, Hidden Power Fire, Toxic, all that sort of thing. Makes Amoonguss a really, really good Pokemon. Next up is Suicune. Suicune is just a fat wall. Calm Mind, max defense, can really just do so much against a team sometimes. You could run Crocoon with Rest and Sleep Talk. You could run fully offensive with Hydro Pump and Ice Beam and Grass Knot. Air Slash. You didn't run a physical Suicune with Extreme Speed and like I'm pretty sure it gets Aqua Jet too. Waterfall. I mean, it's just Suicune has a lot of potential. It's mainly used as a defensive wall with Calm Minds, but there are a lot of options for it. So Suicune, in a lot of cases, is going to be the glue that holds this team together. Next up is Rhinoculus. In a very similar situation to Suicune, very big Calm Mind setter. Also gets Acid Armor though, so to boost that defense as well. Gets Recover as a form of reliable recovery. And then, you know, if the opponent doesn't have anything that resists Psychic, just Psychic or Psyshock your way through their team and you win. Pretty, really good Pokemon. Also gets Magic Guard and Regenerator, so both of those abilities could come in handy. Magic Guard, as you guys know, blocks any damage that's not directly from an attack. So like Sandstorm won't do any damage, Rocks, Stealth Rocks won't do any damage, Leech Seed, Poison will not do any damage. The only thing is if you click an attack that has a damage rating next to it, that will do damage. That's it. So that's Magic Guard is great. So yeah, that's Rhinoculus. I also thought I needed a little more special attacking presence on this team. I mean, you look, the only thing I really have is Thundurus and Heatran. So Rhinoculus really brings that together. Speaking of physical threat, special attacking threats, we also got Volcarona. And Volcarona is going to be probably one of my main setup Pokemon as well. Gives me another fire type, a little more offensive than Heatran. And this thing is meant to Quiver Dance and kill. That's pretty much it. 4 times weakness to Stealth Rocks is a little bit annoying, but we can make do with that, especially with Giga Drain to get some health back, and Roost as well for reliable recovery. But yeah, it gets Fiery Dance, which has a chance to boost its own special attack, and that's like base 90 or something attack, just a little bit under Fire Blast. Also gets Bug Buzz, and like I said, Giga Drain. Gets a couple other coverage moves, but they're not all that good. Yeah. And finally, Hitmonlee. I wanted a second Rapid Spinner, and I also wanted a fighting type, and Hitmonlee was there, and I'm like, let's pick it up. So yeah, Hitmonlee. A lot of different options for this set. You can run Choice Scarf, you could run Endure with Lychee Berry, and Reversal with Unburden, or you could just even try to run an Assault Vest set because its base special defense is pretty good. The only problem is its speed is pretty bad, so that's why people generally run an Unburden set or a Choice Scarf set, just to patch up its speed and really make use of its monstrous attack stat. So yeah, that's it for the draft analysis. So right now we get to go on to the team builder, and so let's jump right over to the schedule for a second, and you'll see no one's actually done any battles yet, but my team is in this league, the Niagara Metagross. So hopefully I'll remember that and I won't say your Phoenix Sunkerns. Call me out in the comments if I do. But we're going to be up against the Kentucky Tentacruels, which is Jake Just's team. So let's head right over there and start looking at his team. Now, the first thing you notice about his team, he has 3 of the 4 Tapus. The second thing you'll notice about his team, he has 2 Sandstorm Setters. Third thing you'll notice about his team, he has Hail Setter. And the last thing you'll notice about his team is he has Pokemon that can abuse both Sand and Hail. He wants to control this battlefield. He really wants to control the battlefield. And that's Jake's mindset, I think, going into the draft and into these battles. So, that being said, though, he actually has a surprisingly balanced team with a lot of defensive and offensive threats, making it very hard if you don't have proper responses to a lot of these Pokemon. But the good news is, if you prepare for like a group of Pokemon like a Sandstorm team, and you prepare a Pokemon or two for an Ice team, at least one of those will come in handy. So let's just go through the team real quick. We've got Tapu Lele, Psychic and Fairy type, really strong special attacker. The only thing that really lets it down is its speed, but honestly, Scarf Tapu Lele with Psychic Terrain up really hits so hard against a lot of Pokemon. Gets really good coverage too between Moonblast, Psychic, Psyshock, Hidden Power Fire, Energy Ball, I think he has Shadow Ball and Focus Blast too. So it really doesn't need any more coverage than that. Sometimes gets 4 move slot syndrome. But really gotta watch out for this thing. Next up is also Tapu Lele. Invulnerable to priority attacks with Psychic Terrain up. So Ice Shard from Weavile is not going to be helping out too much against this thing. Next up now is Tapu Fini. And Tapu Fini is a great defensive Pokemon. The only bad thing is that Misty Terrain will negate any status. So you, while you can't get toxic or burned or paralyzed or anything, the opponent also cannot. Which is a problem for Tapu Fini if there's a Pokemon that resists all its stab attacks. All its coverage attacks, but it does get a couple of coverage moves. Generally though, this thing is run as a defensive Pokemon with Scald and like, I don't know, Whirlpool or Ice Beam. Defog too is very common on it, and Moonblast. Pretty much just to take those defensive hits and slap the opponent back with one of its pretty surprisingly strong attacks. Its special attack stat is not bad by any means and makes for a great choice specs bulky attacker as well. Yeah, so next up is Tapu Koko, the speedster of an electric type. This is another thing that actually reaches the 130 speed tier. And yeah, this thing with electric terrain and Thunderbolt or Wild Charge or Volt Switch really does hit very hard. Generally run with an electric move and an ice type move or Moonblast. And sometimes it's run physical, sometimes it's run special. Its special move pool is much better, especially considering it does not get Play Rough, but instead gets Dazzling Gleam. So generally, a lot of people like to run it on the special side just to be able to take advantage of both its stab attacks. So yeah, that's something I will have to certainly watch out for. And now we come up to his first Sand Abuser, and this is like the point in the draft where I was like, oh, he's getting Excadrill, maybe he wants it for Stealth Rocker, Air Balloon. I wasn't thinking Sand Rush at this point. But Excadrill, Sand Rush, doubles its speed, leaves you open to running Adamant and like Choice Band or something, and just slamming home with Earthquake and Iron Head, Rock Slide. Also gets Stealth Rocks with Mold Breaker, so goes past Magic Bounce and stuff. But there are no Megas in this league, so the only Magic Bouncers are Espeon and Xatu, which no one picked up. So Mold Breaker Stealth Rocks would be pretty useless. But yeah, it also I think gets Poison Jab. Not that it really needs it because it has Stab Iron Head already. So yeah, Excadrill definitely a Pokemon I am going to be watching out for. Very scary physical threat. Next up is Salazzle. Really fast, base 109 speed, fire and poison type. High special attack as well. So Sludge Wave, Fire Blast, gonna be hitting hard. A couple other coverage moves that I can't quite think of right now. But that's mainly what it is. Usually run Air Balloon, Scarf, or Specs, or even Life Orb sometimes, but I tend to find that Life Orb wears it down a little too fast, especially if rocks are up. and ground type attacks are super effective against it, so like 4 times. So even like an earthquake from like I don't know, Volcarona would probably take it out because its paper thin defenses. Also interesting to note is its ability Corrosion lets it poison any Pokemon, regardless of type or ability. So that's something that's really cool. It can poison steel types, it can poison other poison types, and that's a really neat thing to note. Next up is Tyranitar, and this is where I started to realize, oh, he might be preparing for a weather team. So Tyranitar, generally run as a Dragon Dance Pokemon with Stone Edge, Crunch, and 1 or 2 other coverage moves. Mainly there to set up the Sand, and when Sand is boosted, it actually gets also a boost to its special defense. So that is something to watch out for. Generally better to hit it with a physical fighting type move, which almost all the time takes it out. And yeah, with Sandstream it automatically sets up the sand, and just really high attack. Makes a great assault vest Pokemon as well, with its special defense already boosted from the sand. So this can be run in a lot of ways, and I'm very interested actually to see what if Jake brings this or his next Pokemon, Hippowdon. Against me, honestly, I think he is going to bring the Sand team, just because. Oh, actually, seeing how weak my team's not really that weak to Ice, especially with 2 Fire types and 2 Steel types. But I don't know, it's kind of up in the air. I think he'll bring the Sand team first, just to sort of figure it out for himself. But who knows? But yeah, Hippowdon is more the physically defensive Pokemon with Toxic, with Stealth Rocks. Oh, Tyranitar is also a Stealth Rock Pokemon. Hippowdon also gets Rock coverage, gets Roar, gets Slack Off. No, it gets Whirlwind, not Roar. But also gets Slack Off and stuff. Pretty high attack stats, so Earthquake would be hurting a lot if he chooses to bring it. But yeah, Hippowdon, very much usually a defensive Pokemon. Isn't really run super differently all the time. Next up is Cresselia, and this is meant just as a tank, but it can also boost with Calm Mind, which is generally its preferred method of boosting slash it's its preferred way of boosting its stats in general. So generally run max defense with Calm Mind, and can run Thunder Wave or Toxic, Moonblast. I think it's Ice Beam too, yeah. And Levitate, which makes it immune to ground type attacks, which is always helpful. This is one of the few Pokemon that doesn't fit into the weather theme or terrain feel, along with Salazzle and Chandelure. Next up is Sandslash. This thing gives him a Rapid Spinner and another Sand Rush or Sand Force Pokemon, or maybe both. Another thing to abuse the sand, pretty much, but very weak to special attacks, especially super effective ones like Scald and Giga Drain. So that's definitely something I'll be looking to take advantage of. And also another Stealth Rocker, another Rapid Spinner. No, his first Rapid Spinner, his second one being... Oh, no, his second Rapid Spinner after Excadrill. This thing is basically weaker Excadrill with fewer stab attacks. So that... I'm very interested as to why he picked it up, but that's okay. Next up is Alolan Sandslash, which is actually going to benefit more from the hail than anything. And it's funny, he has both Sandslashes. Slush Rush and also Swords Dance. This thing is actually, in my opinion, a little more useful for his team than regular Sandslash, because this thing is able to take advantage of the ice and the ice type stabs. But it also has another steel type, so it's basically like Excadrill again. But yeah, with Swords Dance, Earthquake, Ice, I'm gonna say it right the first time, one of these times. Icicle Crash, and Iron Head. That pretty much wrecks through most teams. Next up is Alolan Ninetales. I think again sitting at that 109 or 110 speed stat. Really great. Snow Warning, Blizzard, Moonblast, all do really well. Also gets Dark Pulse and Psyshock. So a really good special attacker, especially run Specs or Life Orb, and just to set up the hail for the Sand Slash for the most part. 4 times weak to Steel, just like Deontay, but I don't actually have any Bullet Punch users on my team, so that's unfortunate. Next up is Chandelure. Spin Blocker gives him a second Fire type and a couple of Ghost type opportunities. But that's about it. I mean, you can run Scarf, you can run Specs, you can run Life Orb. This thing is generally run offensive. Can be run with Overheat over like Fire Blast or something. But yeah, pretty self-explanatory for that. But for that, let me go into my team now that I'm bringing for him. Yeah, I know this video is dragging on now. It's almost a half hour, but let's get through this. So we burn it up the Volcarona. We have Copy Bin, the Ditto. We have not a cat, the Suicune, and not a dog, the Landorus. We have Fort McHenry, the Fortress, and we have My Ex, the Weavile. So let's just go through these sets a little bit. Let's not start with you. So we burn it up the Volcarona. This is actually this is gonna be my main setup Pokemon, and hopefully I'll be able to keep rocks off the field and be able to come in with this Quiver Dance once or twice and just win from there. Because we have Giga Drain for all his ground and rock types, Fiery Dance for his ice types, and Giga Drain and Bug Buzz for things like the Cresselia, and it also probably, I think it hits the Tyranitar a little harder, the Tapu Lele a little harder. Honestly, the only thing that truly walls this set out is the Salazzle. But again, that thing has paper thin defenses, and it probably won't be doing too much damage to me after 1 or 2 Quiver Dances. I would have liked to run Roost on this, but 3 attacks were definitely necessary. Flame Body, to get those burns, because Swarm isn't that super helpful. Modest Nature and max special attack and speed. Next up is Copy Bin, the Ditto. This is made to counter any Excadrill shenanigans, any Sand Slash shenanigans he has. Also made to counter Tapu Lele if it's Scarfed, because I don't really have anything that'll outspeed that. I do have another thing to deal with Tapu Lele, but I think it also deals with most of his team relatively well in terms of Fortress. But yeah, max defense because something. I don't really know why, but this is the Showdown recommended set with Imposter, so I just roll with it. It apparently gives Ditto the optimal something or other, but once he transforms, it doesn't matter that much anyway, because he has exactly the same stats and everything. So next up is Suicune, who I nicknamed Not a Cat. Got Calm Mind, Scald, Toxic, and Hidden Power Steel with max defensive investment. I wanted to run Rest this week, but I decided I'd rather run max defense and really wall out that Excadrill, the Sand Slash, both of them, and even take hits from the Chandelure and the Cresselia and the Salazzle. The only thing that can really break through this set is like a Specs Tapu Fini, or Tapu Lele with Energy Ball, or Tapu Koko with I guess Specs, because after a couple of Calm Minds it really won't be doing that much to me. Yeah, Toxic is to get the poison on anything that's not Steel or named Tapu Fini, or Salazzle. And yeah, it's Toxic is mainly for the Cresselia, which would otherwise wall out this set. Hidden Power Steel is for all of the Tapus, just so I hit them a little harder, particularly Tapu Fini and Tapu Koko, which otherwise resist Scald. So yeah, that's this set. Next up is not a dog, the Landorus, because it's a cat. Now this is a little bit of a different set. This is going to be bulky physical, Rocky Helmet, and Iron Tail, U-Turn, Earthquake, and Stealth Rock. Stealth Rock mainly just to get something up, and also I had an extra move slot. I didn't really feel like running Toxic on this set too, because U-Turn hits the Cresselia pretty hard. But yeah, Iron Tail's for the Tapus, Earthquake is for literally everything else. He has a team that's very weak to ground, except for Cresselia, which U-Turn takes care of very nicely. So yeah, this Pokemon was like a must bring, just because ground type attacks do so well against this team, considering all his rock and steel types and fire types. So yeah, next up is Fort McHenry, the Forages. Leftovers sturdy with Gyro Ball, Rapid Spin, Stealth Rock, and Toxic. Actually, now would be a good time to check if it gets Toxic Spikes. Yeah, it does get Toxic Spikes. So that's a set I will run at some point. But we have max HP, max special defense. And this thing is my secondary Tapu Lele counter. As with max special defense investment, I will live a Scarfed, not a Life Orb, but a Scarfed Hidden Power Fire. And then if he is Scarfed, with this spread, I will be able to knock it out with the Gyro Ball in at least 2 hits. At most 2 hits, sorry. If I get a lucky roll, I could knock it out in the first hit. But yeah, minimum speed nature, just to be able to maximize that Rapid Spin Gyro Ball damage, which would be a lot more helpful than just the attack. And yeah, last but not least is my X, the Weavile. And this thing, I just kind of need a little more special physical attacking on this team, as well as something that was definitely fast enough to take care of anything that wasn't Scarfed. So Weavile really fits the bill very well there. By the time of the battle, I might switch to Timid if I find out that Jolly. If I find out that Ninetales or Salazzle outspeeds me. But yeah, running Brick Break for the Tyranitar and for the Sand Slash, Alolan Sand Slash. Knockoff for the Cresselia. This thing does so well against Cresselia. And also Chandelure. Icicle Crash for pretty much everything else. And then Iron Tail for the Tapus. I know it's kind of inaccurate, but I'm also running it on Landorus just to be able to destroy those Tapus as well. And yeah, I'm running Iron Tail over Poison Jab just because Poison Jab only hits Tapu Fini and Tapu Koko for neutral damage, I believe. So Iron Tail, besides being more powerful, is also a better coverage option. So yeah, that's going to be my team for this week, guys. And thank you all for bearing with me through this long video. And we're approaching 35 minutes right now, so I tried to keep it a little bit more brief. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to tap that like button down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think of longer style videos like this, or just what you think of the team in general and what you think my chances are. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you champs in the next video. Peace.